Hello and welcome to this week's beginner's guide. This week we'll be looking at the 4 Promethean Hero Skills, which can be found here on the hero screen. If I click the skill points button here, you'll see that I have a couple upgrades available to me over here and a couple locked and quite a few learned. We're going to be talking about the red ones, the Fallout Protocols, Plasma Surge, Purging Field, and Extermination Squad today. After we're done talking about that in detail, I want to talk about some of the stronger synergies that are currently in the game for the Promethean secret tech. I expect that the 2 expansions planned in 2020 will introduce some new combinations with the Promethean class, but I do feel like I have enough experience with them at this point in the game to put together a quick guide to cover what the Promethean class currently combines well with. Now let's take a closer look at Fallout Protocols. Fallout Protocols gives +2 thermal resistance to all of the units in the army with this hero as a leader. Right now we have our main commander in charge of this stack, so all of the units in there will get a little bit of extra thermal resistance if we take this, which can be kind of nice, but I would pass on this. In most situations you can get more value out of these skill points, so I wouldn't spend 3 skill points on this. But if, say, you're playing the Amazon and you have a lot of units that are weak to thermal damage, maybe you want to combine that with that class's weaknesses to get a pretty hard army to find a weakness to. It's going to be pretty difficult to deal with. Next is Plasma Surge, which is okay if you are playing melee. I'd say probably better than okay if you're playing a melee hero, because it launches you at the enemy, dealing damage, doing a little bit of staggering, potentially causing burning, and I think we're getting that flanker bonus because of something else. This thing here, this gives us flanker, so you don't get flanker on your Plasma Surge. Unless you apply a mod on it, which then allows you to do some pretty fun stuff, I guess. It's not my favorite skill, because if you can do a repeating melee attack, it's probably going to do more damage, and you'll get 3 tries at causing a stagger. This is only 1 attack, so even if you are playing a melee hero, this is probably a pass, but then again, could be nice if you want to deal damage to multiple units, because when you get to the tile that you land on, you hit all adjacent units, including friendly ones, and that can be combined with the Plasmoid's backlash ability to deal a lot of damage to a target. It's kind of nice, actually. If you're gonna have a lot of Plasmoids and trying to take advantage of their backlash, you can get a lot of value out of Plasma Surge, but I generally avoid it. Now, Purging Field. Purging Field is kind of nice for certain races who don't have the ability to clear out negative status effects. I know the Dvar don't have that, and I'm pretty sure the Amazon don't have that, so if you want to take this as one of those classes, you can, but generally speaking, I actually don't use a lot of these abilities, and I don't put them in my armies, and maybe that's an oversight. Maybe that makes me actually pretty easy to fight and counter, but I feel like you get more value out of other things. That's a lot of skill points. 4 points is a lot of skill points, and this is a full action, so yeah, do you really want your main person or an important unit spending an entire turn clearing things off of multiple units? Maybe. It could be nice. And the last skill we're going to talk about is Extermination Squad. This one requires level 8, I think. Yeah, Purging Field required level 6. Plasma Surge requires level 4. So yeah, keep that in mind. You won't be able to get it too early. Level 8 takes a while to get to, but once you get to it, I think you will probably want to consider this skill. If you're fighting anybody who's got animal units or plant units, and that's a lot of different units, you want this ability. If you're facing against a Xenoblade commander, you need this ability. You take it. It's going to give you a massive upper hand against them. Plus 20% more damage. That's amazing. So you can use that to fight enemy commanders, maybe the growth, or just clear out some sites that have a lot of animals, which in the late game, by the time you get a level 8 commander, there probably won't be that many left, but it could help. Now, before we jump into all the synergies between the different races and the Promethean secret tech, I did want to talk a little bit about the backgrounds I like using with this secret tech, as well as the differences between the 6 types of purifier units and the 2 types of Phoenix walkers. The Star Union Scholar and the large army backgrounds are usually what I like using with the Promethean, because that allows me to have enough units to go clear out the research sites around me very early, and that in turn allows me to pursue the plasmoids quickly, which are super useful to be able to just throw down next to your armies wherever they are. If you summon a plasmoid, it can join up with your army instantly. Let's say you just lost a unit, you went from 6 to 5, you can just drop this in and support that army quite a bit, allowing you to clear out more sites and to expand into the areas around you very quickly. If you are at war in the early game, that can be incredibly useful for trying to rush an opponent, to just get yourself enough units to win the fights that that you may get into in the early game. Just having an extra little plasmoid is a pretty massive advantage in turn 15. So yeah, I think that's a pretty valid strategy. If you don't want to rush opponents, just having extra plasmoids will allow you to snowball your economy so that you just get way ahead of your opponents. Now let's jump into here. Let's look at our purifiers. I can spell. Alright, so we'll start off with the Amazon Purifier, which is pretty unique. It has a plasma bow, which ignores cover and unit in the way penalties. Very, very powerful. Especially when you consider that the Vanguard pretty much have the same attack, except for it does not ignore line of sight covers, and they have the same range. It's 5 range. Nope, never mind. This is 7 range, which does make it better. This is 7 range. I think I got confused because this is a 5 range. Yeah, this is a 5 range, which is the same as this repeating attack. So I guess the Vanguard get that as their advantage. They can shoot from a little bit further away. But yeah, essentially these guys have a unique attack here, and the ability to get a little bit more range if they are in cover. So they really effectively only have 1 less range than these Vanguard guys when the Amazon are in cover. But you can make units which count as cover. So this unit can get in cover very easily in a lot of places across the map that don't necessarily start with cover on it. You can move a unit over to there and just use this that way to boost this guy's range. Now let's talk about the Assembly Purifier. Makes sense, it's the next on the list. They have a little bit of arc resistance because they are cyborg assemblies. Being cyborg means that they can now, or these guys can rather, they can be reassembled using the Assembly special ability. Pretty nice. They also get scavenge spare parts, giving them a little bit of extra healing, but their attack is generic. It's the same as, I think, a Kir'ko. Yeah, they have the exact same attack. The Kir'ko have swarm shielding, which is nice. They can get a little bit of support or defense from hanging out next to other Kir'ko units. Makes sense. All these guys kind of use their racial units gimmicks. The Dvar Purifier, for example, he is trench, which allows him just to be a little bit safer, maybe get some healing. But yeah, just the normal old attacks here, same as I think this one, the assembly one, and him have the same attacks. There's nothing else that I'm seeing here. Now let's go and take a look at the Syndicate Indentured Purifier, which is super nice because, as you can see in the name, he's indentured. Being indentured means that they can get bonuses from the overseers and operations and a couple other different things. You can make it so that there's a doctrine that makes indentured units just cheaper to maintain. So yeah, I think that is worth getting because of just how many things synergize with the indentured trait on the Syndicate research and doctrines. Now, the last thing I believe, yeah, there's nothing really worth going over here. Last thing we're going to talk about, last purifier we're going to talk about is the Vanguard one, which has a little bit of extra range. We saw that earlier, 2 more range than the Amazon Purifier, who has a repeating attack. This repeating attack only does 10 damage, which is a little bit less than the single attack on our Plasma Blast. It's half, but if you have 3 attacks and they all go through, that's potentially 30 damage compared to the 20. I know single attacks usually have a higher chance of applying their modifier, but if you look closely here, both the repeating and the single attack have an 8 strength chance to apply burning, so it's actually more likely that this unit and the Amazon unit will apply burning. I don't see anything else here worth going over, so let's pull up our Phoenix Walker. Oh geez, yeah, that's not spelled like that. I can spell. Alright, so we had the Dvar Phoenix Walker and the normal Phoenix Walker. As far as I can tell, there is only one difference: Plasma Mastery. Plasma Mastery makes it so that this unit gets 20% more damage. I believe at one point Plasma Mastery used to go on all Dvar Promethean units, but that does not appear to be how that works anymore. If I type it in here, this is only on one unit, the Phoenix Walker, which is really the Dvar Phoenix Walker. It doesn't apply to the others. Although the Promethean Dvar is a bit redundant, it is one of the better combinations for the Promethean secret tech because it just covers a lot of the Dvar's early game weaknesses, which from what I can tell is low accuracy and not being able to heal mechanical units. If we just jump in here really quickly, we'll see that we got this purification field, which is great at healing your mechanical units. It's tier 1 tech, and when you apply burning, it makes it easier to hit your targets. This makes it so that you're also a little bit more accurate. So when you combine this with the ability to burn units, maybe with your purifier, then it's a lot easier for your bulwarks to do more useful damage. The Dvar also have access to a really nice thing which you can put on the Phoenix Walkers. I believe it is the super powered pistons. Yes, if you can apply concussion to a unit that's inside a thermal hazard, it just has to sit there and take the thermal damage. So I like that a lot. You could maybe throw it down a field with your purifier, or maybe I think this thing creates a hazard. Yeah, this leaves behind a burning hazard for 2 turns. So you could do that and then concuss them with maybe a Phoenix Walker. That's a pretty nice combination. The Dvar are also designed to be able to use all of their movement and still have full firepower. Think the trenchers, but not necessarily all the trenchers. A lot of the Prometheans do something similar, so like their mods are they synergize well because they're all about that single attack. They don't have the Dvar don't have access to a operation that removes status effects, so the purification field is useful for that as well. It not only makes it so you can heal mechanical units, you can remove negative status effects. It's pretty important if like somebody's trying to mind control you or something like that. You want to be able to do something like that. There's a couple more things here. We're almost done with the Dvar. Let's see. You can apply burning using both the firearms channel and the explosive one. I think if I go down this channel a little bit, yeah, we can apply burning here, meaning these guys, the Dvar, are the only race that can really take advantage of the Promethean's burning ability as much as possible using both of their starting weapon things. Sure, if you get another race inside of your empire, you can switch over to something else, but they're the only ones who have the access to that from the beginning, making them a pretty reliable choice for that reason and all the other ones that we just went over. And the last thing I have in my notes that people were talking about on the forums is this reconstruction kit. Being able to rebuild your Phoenix Walkers is pretty powerful. If you lose a big, strong, experienced melee fighter, being able to just build it up is very nice. And if you put this on multiple units, you can just keep resurrecting the same Phoenix Walker who's ran forward and is tanking most of the damage. Now, let's talk a little bit about the actual skills themselves. Incentivize is good if you're not dealing with mechanical units. A lot of the Promethean stuff is mechanical, so you know, maybe you're going to be going down the mechanical focus, potentially a pass, probably a pass. Juggernaut, I never take. Siege Master, yes. If you're in cover, if you got units that can take cover, small enough units that can take cover, you want Siege Master. I think that's a take. I like that one quite a bit. Hardness Training, stats effects, potentially pass, potentially take, depending on who you're fighting and if they're using a lot of status effects. Usually if you're fighting a AI commander, you can tell pretty quickly if they're going to be going for status effects or not. I think the Amazons, they use a lot of status effects, so maybe take that if you're fighting Amazon. You can get stagger immunity a couple other different ways, so pass on that. Armor is amazing, take that. Nitro battery is fantastic for like your Phoenix Walkers or your Aegis tanks, so yes, take that for the Promethean Dvar. The Promethean Amazon combination, while not the most obvious choice, is a pretty powerful combination for a lot of the same reasons that the Dvar Promethean is a strong combination. The Amazon don't have an operation to remove status effects, so the Purification Field mod is incredibly powerful on their units. And you can also use Entangle combined with Burning to kind of lock units in place and then just lock them in place over a hazard. Kind of like if you use Concussion with the Dvar, you can entangle with like your Arborean units to whoops, let's not click this, to get as much out of your hazards as possible, to make it so that the enemy is just kind of stuck there dealing with your hazard for a couple turns. I think that is available pretty early with the Arboreans in this tree. Yeah, you can get it at tier 2 tech. You can get your ability to entangle units and lock them in place, and then you could get your purifier to drop the fire down on your enemies. So that's a strategy that's available to you pretty early on. Like the ability to use these tanks here, the Aegis tanks, as cover for not just my huntresses and my purifiers, but also my heroes. By getting a little bit of cover from that, we can push our units forward slowly and safely into positions that benefit us, and creating cover, maybe even next to cover. If you put this next to another piece of cover, you can move your hero unit in. Instead of getting one piece of cover, you get two pieces of cover. So it's a pretty nice combination with the Amazon's play style, which usually uses cover themselves and then just shoots over enemies' cover using the bows. You have to get like in at a medium range, so this tank will help you do that. The Aegis Tank also has a lot of impact, so it can help stagger people, keep them in place, and deal some damage. One of the really interesting things that I saw with the Amazon that people were talking about is this right here. The Phoenix bomb launchers can be applied to infantry and mounted units, which means you can actually apply that to your Pteranodon or your Harriers, which is pretty special. If something's mounted like this, I don't think this counts as mounted, yeah, then you can apply that really cool, very powerful mod to it. And a lot of the other tier 3 units like this, and tier 4 or tier 2 units like this for the other races are mechanical. Let's switch over to Syndicate. I think, yeah, you'll see mechanical, or not mechanical, but biological. I can't apply this to that, right? It's supposed to go on infantry and mounted units. So just because he's not one of the lower tier units, he doesn't count as infantry. If we go down to we go over to like our tier 1 units, they're infantry. Tier 1 units are infantry. So basically you got an ability to use a nice powerful mod as the Amazon that the others don't have access to using on their big scary units. They can put on smaller units. The Amazons have mods that protect them from arc damage and psionic damage. So combining that with the Promethean provides them a little bit of protection from fire and biochemical damage. I think if I go through here, we can find the things with, yeah, we got biochemical resistance. So you combine that with all these other little resistances that you can get, and you've got units that are kind of hard to take out, pretty hard to deal with. It's not a strategy that I've played around with too much, but it's one that sounds like a pretty fun strategy. I mean, maybe you face an enemy who's just designed perfectly to get around the defenses that you have. Maybe they're going to go psychic and you don't have any shields and you focus on resisting all the other damage channels. That would be really bad, but very unlikely. I have heard online that the Arboreans suffer a little bit from low accuracy, so burning units is good for them, makes it easier for them to hit their units, and also you can just throw in this thing to increase their accuracy in general. So yeah, I think that's everything in my notes. Yes, we got to talk about the traits themselves now. So let's go into here and take a quick look at the actual traits. So we have animal discipline. Given that, you know, none of the Promethean units are animals, maybe a pass. If you're going to take advantage of your Amazon units, maybe you want that. Maybe if you got a lot of Arboreans, you want to put that on them. Actually, are Arboreans animals or are they plants? I've forgotten. They're plant animals. So yes, you can apply that to them. Now let's talk about biology expert. Biological units can get a little bit more resistance. Pretty similar to animal discipline. Maybe take it, probably not though. I mean, you only have so many points you can spend, so I would probably pass on it. Warcry, kind of nice, but you have to use an action on that, so I usually actually pass on this ability. I could see it being pretty good if you use it right at the beginning of the fight before you're actually in danger, and then you pick the fight, because it lasts for 3 turns. 3 turns is a little while. Ranger training, no, you can pass on that. Call of the Wild, yes, get Call of the Wild. It's always useful to have another unit on your side, so just take that. Renewal doesn't heal mechanical units, but you're going to have some biological units if you're playing Amazon. I'd take it. Visual acuity, take that. Having extra range is always nice. So yeah, you can use this in combination, like I said earlier, with the Aegis tank. You can just have them walk a little bit forward and get your cover like that. Promethean assembly is a interesting combination, which I feel like is worse than the Amazon Promethean and the Dvar Promethean, but I'm not certain about that. It does have a really nice synergy between the Pyrex absorption panels and the ability for melee units to assimilate. Let's go over to here. So you can throw down a thermal hazard next to a scavenger with this on it, and instead of dealing damage to it, it will heal your unit 12 points. And that means if you've thrown your scavenger next to an enemy unit, you're staggering it, but maybe you've taken a little bit of damage, or it attacks back. Maybe you attack but you miss and it attacks back, and your unit needs a little bit of healing. You can then launch in some fire from a purifier into that area, and it will hit the target and one hex around it, which will hit your scavenger, healing it at 12 points. And yeah, just being able to heal through attacking and with the unit itself and attacking with another unit is nice, because not only are you getting health back on your units, you're taking it away from the enemy. While you can use this with other melee units and other classes, I just feel like it's best on the scavengers and the other melee units like that, maybe a hero who have the ability to assimilate the enemies. I'm trying to remember who can assimilate other than that, and I think they have access to other things. The reverse engineer, I think, can assimilate. Maybe the reaver, the wrecker, I believe, can also do that kind of stuff. So yeah, put those Pyrex panels on your guys and just throw hazards around the map. It should be really nice for the assembly. I mean, basically, if they can move and they're standing next to a unit that has melee overwatch, like the scavenger, and they're in a hazard, every time they move, they're going to take a lot of damage. So they may just end up sitting there and wasting a turn instead of attacking you. It seems pretty nice. Like, they have no option. Even if they are staggered, there's no good option. Now, another thing that I saw online, that was something that I kind of came up with on my own because I played a little bit of Promethean. One of the things that I saw online that I really liked for the assembly is that if you put the explosive ammo from the Promethean class, I believe there is something that allows it so that you can hit all enemies within a 1 hex radius of your target for 50% damage. But I don't know where it is. I forgot to look that up really quickly. It's an explosive, isn't it? Yeah, this deals 50% damage to adjacent units, so the assembly have access to that in their firearms tab. I don't know why I thought that was only available to the assembly. That's strange. I guess I saw it as notes and I was like, oh yeah, no, that's a nice combination, but really that's only available to the assembly. And a couple other people. You could do that with maybe the Dvar. I think they have access to firearms, and potentially the Vanguard. But no, this seems actually like a unique combination. Putting this on your snipers for 50% damage. Oh, it causes burning, so I guess that synergizes well with the other stuff. I missed that earlier when I was doing my research, that this isn't a Promethean thing. It seemed like it was saying there's a Promethean ability to do that, but I'm pretty sure it's this right here because it's a fire focused thing. So yeah, the assembly can do something cool with that. I think we're ready to talk about the traits themselves, which are very good as usual. I like the assembly traits quite a lot. Assimilate is very nice if you got a melee focused hero. That pairs really well with the thing we talked about earlier, the Pyrex absorption panels. If you put that on your hero and you're assimilating in melee attack, very nice. I take it. Better than usual. Nanite boosters is okay in certain situations, but probably a pass. You can use skill points on better things, I think. I don't like stabilizers. Stabilizers you can increase stagger resistance a lot of different ways, and I think spending 2 points to just get the 1 level is not worth it. But what do I know? Maybe it's worth it just to keep your guy from losing a little bit of their turn and not being able to do everything they potentially could. Battlefield repairs is something I usually pass on because, you know, it's rare that all 6 units in that army have enough damage to be healed. But then again, just being able to heal any units that take damage is nice. So maybe, but probably not. I think no. Cybernetic Overdrive is really nice because you can use that on your Purifier, but apart from that, I don't think there's any synergy between the Promethean and the Promethean Secret Tech and this ability right here. None of the Promethean things are cyborgs except for the Purifier. Stunning Discharge, it's okay, it's pretty nice I guess, but I would probably pass on it. Reassemble is amazing. Take Reassemble. It can bring back a cyborg unit, which, yeah, like I just said, really only applies to the Purifier out of the pure Promethean units, but still, you want Reassemble. It's so good. Promethean Vanguard is a really interesting combination because, like the Dvar, they have access to 2 damage channels, which pair nicely with the modifiers that the Promethean Secret Tech can apply. If we look here, we can apply burning using that, and we can also apply burning using this mod right here for our 2 damage channels. I know I said earlier that the Dvar were the only one who can use both of their damage channels with the Secret Tech, but I missed this. I hadn't actually seen that this was underneath the explosive damage channel, not a Promethean thing. I misread my notes earlier, misunderstood my notes from last night, and yeah, I think when you take that into consideration, that makes the Vanguard actually a much better option than I initially thought. I really like the Vanguard because increasing your accuracy or your hit chance against an enemy by making them burn is very nice for the Vanguard. They do specialize in fighting at a long range. Unlike the Amazon who want to fight at a medium range, these guys really do want to fight from as far away as possible. So yeah, just combining that with the fact that burning makes them easier to hit is a very nice combination. But when you look at this more, you see there's even more opportunities for the Promethean to fill in the weak spots for the Vanguard. The Vanguard don't have any melee units, so having access to this Phoenix Walker is very, very nice. And then this Plasmoid deployment is incredibly useful for them because you can get that very early. It's only the 2nd tier of research, so being able to drop that in to support your units all across the map is very, very nice. Mostly because you won't have any other melee units that can kind of act as a bit of a tank. The Plasmoids are a small target, so yeah, hard to hit, hard to take out. Usually what people will focus their energies on fighting first. So yeah, you might want to put something like this on it, give it some stagger resistance. Interlocking armor is very good on the Plasmoids, and once again, only a tier 2 tech, so I like it a lot. I do like the idea of putting this on your walkers and then having a stack of Phoenix Walkers and walkers with maybe a hero unit. If you've got, I think, 3 ranged units, 2 melee walkers rather, and then a hero to support these mechanical units, maybe one that's got the synthesis background to, yeah, take care of them as much as humanly possible, you've got a very nice, strong late game stack, which can be countered by things that are anti-mechanical, but it's very strong having all this armor and all this health on your units. If you look here, he's got a lot more armor, so you probably want to put some tanky mods on him and put some damage mods on him if you're gonna use that combo. You can also put the explosive thing on your gunships, which seems pretty nice. Now we can jump into the Vanguard traits, which are pretty straightforward. We have Dig In, I like a lot. I would recommend you take that. Just having extra resistance to all damage is incredibly nice. Field Medicine is nice because it applies to mechanical units and biological, but I usually pass on it because it's 4 skill points. I don't know, that doesn't seem like it's worth it. Rallying Cry, yeah, that's a pass. You don't really need that unless you're fighting against Synumbra, and then even then you might be able to get more value out of your skill points on another thing. Coordinated Strike is nice because that allows your hero to kind of make it easier for everybody else to kill off a unit. The Vanguard do want to fight at a far away range, so if you don't have an owl, you should probably think about putting this on one of your heroes. Maybe not your main one who does most of the damage or focuses on something else. Maybe if they're in a support role, you put it on them, but my main commander is usually a damage dealer, so I wouldn't put this on them. Iron Discipline is good if you're fighting against something that does side damage like Syndicate or Synumbra, but generally speaking, I wouldn't take this. It's just not worth the skill points, even though it's only 2. Martial Inspiration could be good if you are in charge of a mechanical, mindless army, so yeah. Probably a pass, given how many mechanical units you have access to as Promethean. Battle Plan, nice to have extra accuracy. Still would pass that, I think. Promethean Syndicate is one of my favorite combinations because it is a bit of like a gimmick. It's something that I think a lot of people miss when they first look at the Promethean class, because you have to be aware that the purifiers work differently. The fact that these guys are indentured and you don't need to use a mod to do that is very, very nice. It means you can put more mods on them, and you can also get advantages from things like, where is he? It's just looking at him. It's this one. You can get increased damage from all indentured units. Using this mod, it can only be applied to an overseer, so you want to bring an overseer with your indentured, but you usually do that anyways for the extra crit chance. But yeah, I like combining all of the things that indentured can take advantage of and putting them on these purifiers, because of the fact that you don't need to put a mod on them. You've got 3 more slots that you can apply nice things to. Since these guys are a single shot, the purifiers, they're not like the Vanguard ones. They are really good at flanking, and that's another thing that I think a lot of people miss. When you run in behind an enemy and use the single attack, you're going to do a crazy amount of damage, especially if you give them the flanking mod. I think I have it on this hero. Yeah, if you give them the ability to become a flanker, doing extra damage when they're flanking, they're going to do an insane amount of damage, and it's pretty cost effective, to be honest. If you are looking to not use a lot of energy on your units and their mods, I think that's a good value for what you get out of it. There's one other thing I wanted to mention before we move on to the actual hero skills, and that's that as one of the 2 classes that have access to this damage channel, you can take the Flames Focus, which just gives you some really nice synergy with the Promethean class. I'm not sure if the Arc channel has anything that causes it burning, but it doesn't look like it, does it? It looks like if you want to cause burning as this class, you kind of have to go down the psychic tree. But that's not that bad. It's not that hard to do. Just, yeah, I like the idea of making all of your units do thermal damage. While it's not necessarily the best idea, people can counter it. You do an insane amount of damage to people who don't try to counter that strategy. I saw something on the forum about a unit doing, I think, 80 points of damage, 60, 70, 80 points of damage, something in that range, when they put this mod on some of the later games, Psionics, and just combined all the other little mods. So yeah, very strong, definitely worth considering. Now let's talk about the hero skills. We've got backstab. Yeah, maybe not. If you got a single attack that's really strong, you might want to consider that, but I don't usually put that on my hero. Keen Eye. It could be good if you're using a single attack weapon to put this on them so that they get agile overwatch. Maybe if you got like a sniper, you could use that, but the Promethean don't have like a fire sniper or anything, so I don't know. Maybe not. You can put that on your Syndicate hero if you feel like it, with I think a stun sniper. This is okay. I usually would pass on that. Subterfuge is a pass. I don't usually use the camouflage mechanic. Deploying control collar is a yes. Indentured is always good for Syndicate, so you should probably take that. Escape module is also great. I like it a lot. There's very few things like that that keep your hero alive after they quote-unquote die or ran out of their last health point. Shield battery is amazing. Take that. I'll always take that. Promethean Kir'ko, from what I can tell, is probably the weakest combination for the Promethean secret tech, as they have a big focus on biological units without being mounted. If you remember from earlier, the Amazon were able to use the Phoenix bomb launchers on a lot of mounted units, which, yeah, we just simply can't do because there aren't any mounted units here. The Engulfer is its own thing, Barrage is its own thing, Ravenous is its own thing, and yeah, that means you basically can only apply that to infantry units. But on top of that, the Promethean is a lot more focused on mechanical units, so a lot of the things that the Kir'ko have that go on biological and cyborgs just simply cannot go on your machines over here. I do like that they have access to the ability to set people on fire using psychic damage. You can turn your psychic damage into thermal damage, which allows you to deal a lot of damage as the Kir'ko. And I also like that the Mantra of Clarity makes it so that you have increased accuracy with the Kir'ko. The Kir'ko don't have too many ways to increase their accuracy, so if you're not using that, you're probably going to be taking advantage of burning to make it easier to hit your targets, and or I think this unit has an ability, Guiding Presence, which makes it easier to shoot targets. But in general, the Kir'ko are a melee faction with some nice long-ranged abilities, which could use more accuracy, but your melee units, they don't really need more accuracy. They might need more healing, which is where this thing comes into play again. If you're going to be throwing down the hazards with your purifiers, or maybe with a spell or something else, you should be putting this on your frenzied to heal them up. As they get frenzy instead of assimilate, they're going to probably need healing more than assembly melee units, so keep that in mind. Yeah, I think that's all my notes that I have for the Kir'ko. There wasn't much online. Now we can talk about the actual skills. Frenzied Assault. Nice if you're doing melee, slightly better for the Promethean because you might put the absorption panels on your hero and make them a melee unit. I generally would recommend against doing that. I think you want to keep your hero back, not fighting at a melee range. Fear of the Swarm is very good if you've got Swarm Shield units. If you're using Promethean Heavy, maybe you don't want to use Fear of the Swarm, but let's face it, you probably should be using Kir'ko units with some Promethean mods and maybe a couple Promethean units here and there, but primarily taking advantage of the Swarm. Selfless Sacrifice is nice, making it so that maybe you're your ranged units are less likely to get shot, but you need to be careful with that. You don't want to bring it too far forward because the enemy will go inside there and be safe, because that effect lasts until the end of combat. Yeah, you want to be careful with that. Let's see. This is... Oh, this is selfless sacrifice. This isn't the teleport one. I thought for a second this is the teleport one. No, this is just linking to another person so that their damage goes to our hero. I would pass on that. Don't do that. Echo of a Hive Mind, very good. I would take that. Shroud Step is what I thought I was talking about a second ago. This effect lasts until the end of combat. This, what? Spreads a cloud of curing smoke and 1 hex radius. It sounds like it might last all combat, but I had a feeling that it might dissipate. It looks like it might just last all combat and you can use it every 3 turns, but I don't know if that's a great idea. Biological units, you might have only Kir'ko units in your stack, you might have some walkers, so it's less valuable than in other combos, but still worth considering getting. Guiding Presence is always good. I like it. I think you should get that as soon as you get to level 12. And yeah, that's everything I had for this week's beginner's guide. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like, to subscribe, maybe share with your friends on social media. I think that actually is one of the biggest ways you can help my channel grow. For whatever reason, YouTube's algorithm really likes it when people share things on YouTube or on different social media platforms, if they share the link to YouTube. So if you can do that, that'd be awesome. I've got a beginner's guide covering the synergies on the Herator, one doing the Celestian, and one doing the Xenoplague, which I've already published, and I will be working on the next few ones over the next few weeks. If you've got any tips, thoughts that you'd like to share with me, you can do that on Reddit, the forums, Steam. I just started using Steam, or here in the comments on YouTube. All of that sounds good to me. See you around.